All right, this is Jillian from Heisey Reads and Recommends, here with Lauren Oliver, fabulous author that we're so happy to be with today, with just a few questions. So I guess the first one is, we know Before I Fall is a standalone and Delirium is a series and Liesl and Poe is a standalone again. So now that you've done both, how do you feel about the difference between the two and which one do you enjoy more?
I think that in some ways standalones are easier. I think writing Delirium has been an incredibly challenging experience for me, which is part of the reason I wanted to do it as a series. I'm really interested in, as a writer, I mean, all of my books are quite different, and I'm really, really interested in exploring my boundaries as a writer and in pushing my boundaries as a writer. Delirium, I'm working on the third book in the trilogy right now, and I'm close to the end, and I am not going to be working on the series for quite a little bit after this. But that said, I mean, part of it is just, I didn't choose to have Delirium be kind of an epic book that spread out, it just required it. I'd barely gotten to touch the surface of the world I created in the first book. Whereas Liesl and Poe and Before I Fall were really complete, their storylines were complete. So some of the time you're just forced into doing other longer series. I actually have been trying for years to write this one middle grade fantasy. I've rewritten it like 5 times, and it's not working yet. But when it works, I know it will probably be a series. So,
okay. Great. So a question from my students that they like to ask of authors, besides yourself, who are your favorite authors?
Oh my gosh, I don't know that I'm my favorite author. I have a ton. I mean, when I was a kid, some of my earliest influences were C.S. Lewis, Roald Dahl. I love Roald Dahl. I love J.K. Rowling, like everybody else in the world, Philip Pullman. And then I love a lot of adult authors like Jeffrey Eugenides and Ian McEwan and Gabriel Garcia Marquez, who does the kind of magical realism that I adore and that I kind of strive for. And then I have I mean, you know, most of my best friends are YA authors, so Elizabeth Miles, Lauren Cade is great, and Jess Rothenberg, whose book isn't even out yet, Lila Sayles, those are all people I love, and I'm very close to. I love E. Lockhart too, she's great.
Thank you. All right, so if you could go back and relive middle school, because I'm a middle school teacher, I have to ask this question.
Have to die. Yeah.
Right. So the question is, what would you change or what advice would you give yourself?
I mean, I remember middle school as being a time of such paralyzing social, not anxiety, because I wasn't shy, but just desperately striving to fit in, desperately striving for popularity, really worrying about that kind of stuff, really preoccupied. And I mean, I honestly think as you get older, ironically, you try so hard to blend in when you're younger, and then as you get older, you realize the only thing that makes you stand out and that will make you have a standout, incredible life is being special and being different. So, I mean, the number one thing that I would go back and try to change is just that knowledge, that awareness, that, the people who have really spectacular, wonderful lives are people who don't try to blend in and try to be other things, something other than what they are.
Which is fantastic and hard to understand when you are a middle schooler. So the next question then is, when you were younger, did you want to be an author when you grew up?
I always knew I would write. I've been writing since I was 6. I'm going to hold a pen. I didn't necessarily think of being an author as the thing I would do for my career. I was actually a very serious ballet dancer for a long time, so I thought I would be a ballet dancer, but everything I've always loved to do is creative. So my mom, I once remember a notorious conversation, a family that's now entered family lore, where my mom said, well, ballet dancers don't often make very much money. How will you support yourself? And I said, oh, well, I'll be a writer. And she said, well, writers often don't make very much money. How will you support that? And I said, oh, I'll be a painter. And she's like, but painters don't make very much money. How will you support that? And I was like, oh, I'll be a chef. So, I mean, and at that point she just gave up. So, I mean, really, everything I've always loved to do is creative, about expression. And to this day, if it's creative, if it's about making things, building things, inventing things, I like to do it.
Great. All right, and the final question of part 2 of the interview is, beyond the Delirium series, can you tell us anything about what's coming next for you?
I have a second middle grade that is a standalone and is very different from Liesl and Poe coming next fall. And then I'll have, we'll see. If that middle grade fantasy works out, that might be next. If not, I definitely have some teen stuff that I'm thinking of now. It's percolating in my brain, but I'm not sure exactly which one I'll attack first. And then we'll see from there.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And we have parts 1 and 3 that will be linked at the bottom of the blog.